That she got the role not because she was a great singer, she got the role because she's a fantastic actor.
So, it's been officially confirmed that Rachel Zegler is going to be playing the role of Eva Peron in the upcoming Jamie Lloyd-directed revival of Evita.
I've been, as a young person in this industry who has no filter and no idea.
Rachel Zegler just hit a new low, and this time, no one can spin it. No PR statement, no TikTok defense, just cold, empty theater seats in one of the most iconic venues in London. After the internet dragged her through the mud over Snow White, many thought her stage debut in Evita might redeem her. But instead of applause, she's met with silence. Entire sections unsold, premium tickets gathering dust. And while her team scrambles to save face, the audience has already spoken, with their wallets. This isn't just a bad night, it's a full-on rejection. And what makes it worse? She knows it. You can feel it in her interviews. The nervous smiles, the forced charm, the desperation. Rachel Zegler isn't just losing roles, she's losing connection. And in the world of live theater, there's no hiding, no edits, no second takes, just the brutal truth. And it's playing out in real time. Rachel Zegler was supposed to own the stage. Evita at the London Palladium isn't just any gig, it's a dream role on one of the biggest and most respected stages in the world. The kind of opportunity.
And it's lonely. It's very lonely. I just know that if that loneliness can exist, so can other things, and I will be okay.
Opportunity most actors would kill for. But when the curtains rose, the crowd didn't show. Reports from the venue revealed something brutal. More than 70% of seats were left unsold across multiple nights. A 2,286-seat theater. And in some cases, barely a third of it was filled. That's not just a bad turnout, that's a disaster. Some tickets dropped to just $29.50, basically giveaway prices for a show of this caliber. And still, the rows stayed empty. Even premium seats weren't moving. It was like the production had been ghosted by the very audience it hoped to impress. And here's the kicker. This wasn't a quiet failure. It was public. Fans noticed. Reddit threads started popping up. People shared screenshots of nearly vacant seating charts on social media. No one could pretend this wasn't happening. Zegler's supporters tried to blame the economy, the heat wave, the timing. But let's be real. Other shows at the same venue were doing fine. This wasn't a theater problem. It was a Rachel problem. You could see the panic bleeding through in her interviews. She smiled, sure, but the energy was different, forced, shaky. There's something uniquely painful about stepping into a role that once belonged to legends, and hearing nothing but your own voice echoing back at you. And the worst part? This was supposed to be her comeback moment. The chance to show the world she wasn't just the girl who wrecked a Disney classic, but the silence said otherwise. Rachel Zegler wasn't just performing for fewer people. She was performing in the shadow of a reputation she hasn't escaped. And now, it's following her into every spotlight she steps under. You'd think people would have moved on by now. But Rachel Zegler's comments about Snow White still haunt her like a ghost that refuses to leave. And no matter how many months go by, that one interview, where she laughed off the original story, called the prince a stalker, and mocked the fairy tale as outdated, keeps resurfacing. Why does it matter so much? Because Snow White wasn't just a movie. It was Disney's first ever animated feature, a cultural artifact. Generations grew up with that story. So when Rachel stepped in and dismissed it with an eye roll, it didn't feel bold. It felt like betrayal. And audiences didn't forget. Even after the movie finally hit theaters and crawled past the $200 million mark worldwide, it was still branded a flop. Why? Because insiders claim Disney spent over $600 million on production, marketing, and reshoots. That's $500 million down the drain, and Rachel's face was front and center. The backlash was so severe, Disney reportedly shelved the Tangled remake before it could even begin. That film was rumored to be another modernized reboot, and after Snow White, the studio wasn't willing to take another risk. That's how deep the damage went. And while Rachel stayed mostly quiet post-release, the internet didn't. TikTok, Reddit, Twitter, everywhere you looked, people were picking apart her interviews, her attitude, her tone. The label woke princess stuck like glue. Suddenly, it wasn't just about Snow White. It was about Rachel herself. And now that cloud follows her to the stage. When people see her name on a poster for Evita, they don't think, oh, she's trying something new. They think, is this going to be another lecture in disguise? That's the problem. The role of Eva Peron demands charisma, fire, and audience connection. But the moment Rachel steps on stage, the baggage from her past shows up with her. That's what most people miss. It's not that Rachel gave a bad performance. It's that no one showed up to see it, because the trust was already broken. You can't insult your audience and expect them to clap later. The public doesn't forget when you mock what they love. And in Rachel's case, they haven't forgiven her either. Rachel Zegler wasn't supposed to fail. In fact, she was handpicked to win. After just one major role in West Side Story, Hollywood fast-tracked her as the next big thing. Major awards, red carpets, glowing profiles, everything was rolled out like she was already an icon. But the truth? The audience never signed the contract. What people forget is this. West Side Story didn't make her a household name. It made her a promising newcomer. But instead of letting her build organically, studios shoved her into the spotlight like she'd already earned her crown. Lead roles in Snow White, The Hunger Games, and now Evita, all in rapid-fire succession. There was no time for fans to form a real connection. Just a nonstop PR machine forcing her image onto screens, stages, and social feeds. And audiences pushed back, because no matter how many press tours she did, no matter how many magazine covers featured her face, people weren't buying it. Something didn't click. And Hollywood, terrified of looking wrong, kept doubling down instead of pausing to listen. What's worse, there was a moment when the disconnect became undeniable. A clip from the Met Gala went viral, showing Rachel being praised in the comments while Gal Gadot, her Snow White co-star, was getting dragged. Gal, who hadn't said or done anything controversial, was being mocked, while Rachel, the source of the backlash, was being oddly celebrated. The internet felt upside down, but one thing remained consistent. No one wanted to buy tickets to Rachel's show. Theater doesn't lie. There are no CGI fixes, no post-production edits, just butts, in seats or not. And in Rachel's case, it was not every night. It's starting to look less like momentum and more like desperation. Like Hollywood is trying to brute force her into stardom, hoping if they just keep putting her in front of people, eventually they'll care. But that's not how connection works. You can't demand loyalty, you have to earn it. Rachel's situation isn't unique. The industry has done this before. Remember Sam Worthington, Jai Courtney? Actors the studios wanted us to love, but we just didn't. Not because they weren't talented, but because charisma can't be manufactured. And when the push feels forced, the audience resists harder. And that's where Rachel finds herself now. Not just under scrutiny, but under pressure. The kind you can't PR your way out of. When Rachel was announced as the lead in Evita, the press releases were glowing. Headlines boasted that the production had already raked in over $4 million in ticket sales, even before her casting was revealed. On paper, it sounded like a hit in the making. But then reality walked in and sat in an empty row. If millions in tickets were supposedly sold up front, why are entire sections still wide open every night? Fans started asking the same question. On Reddit and Twitter, users began comparing screenshots from the official booking site, showing night after night of unclaimed seats. Rows untouched. Premium spots are still available for cheap. Something didn't add up. Was that $4 million real? Or was it just Hollywood marketing doing what it does best? Pretending? Some theorized the number was a strategic PR move. Inflate the buzz, drive artificial demand, make people believe they're missing out. Classic scarcity tactic. But theater fans aren't tourists. They check seats, they track sales, and they talk. And what they saw didn't match the headlines. It's a harsh reminder. Theater isn't like film. In Hollywood, a box office flop can still look like a success. Just cut the right trailer, pay for the right press, stack the premiere with influencers. But on stage, you can't fake applause. You can't Photoshop a packed audience. You either have a crowd or you don't. Rachel might have gotten used to premieres where she could blend into the excitement, post a few photos, and ride the hype. But in theater, you're exposed, vulnerable. When the house lights come on and the seats are still empty, it's a different kind of silence. And it's not just embarrassing, it's symbolic. The public silence says more than any review ever could. It's not about one bad role or one bad take. It's about trust that was broken and a fan base that never truly formed. When a show tanks this visibly, it tells everyone, from industry insiders to casual fans, that something's off. That no matter how much PR you throw at it, people aren't buying what you're selling. The press can spin numbers, managers can deny rumors, but empty seats don't lie. And night after night, Evita is proving that the audience has already made its decision, not with words, but with silence. And that's the one thing no publicist can cover up. Here's the part that's truly baffling. Despite the flops, the backlash, and the cold reception, Hollywood still won't let go of Rachel Zegler. In fact, they seem more committed than ever. More magazine covers, more projects, more forced smiles on late-night talk shows. The machine keeps pushing her like it's afraid to admit she might have been the wrong bet. But at this point, it's less about faith in her talent and more about saving face. This isn't the first time the industry tried to manufacture a star before the public was ready. Remember Sam Worthington? Jai Courtney? Both were launched with massive roles, big budgets, major franchises, and both failed to connect. Not because they weren't capable, but because you can't fast-track authenticity. You can't fake that bond between a star and the people watching them. That's the trap Rachel is caught in now. The audience didn't choose her. She was chosen for them. And every time a new project is announced with her name on it, the response isn't excitement. It's skepticism. Again, why? Who keeps casting her? You'll see those exact questions popping up across comment sections. Not because viewers are cruel, but because they're tired of being told who to root for. Even worse, the longer this push continues, the more forced it feels. Like executives are doubling down. Not out of confidence, but out of panic. Because if they admit she's not working out, they're not just throwing her under the bus. They're admitting they got it wrong, that the gamble failed, that the audience saw something they didn't. And make no mistake, the audience sees everything now. Social media leaves no room to hide. When Rachel stumbles, it trends. When she performs to a half-empty house, fans post the seating chart. There's no room for illusion anymore. The more Hollywood tries to convince us she's a star, the more disconnected it all feels. And that's the real problem. Because once the audience starts rolling their eyes, it's almost impossible to win them back. Sometimes the biggest red flag isn't what someone says, it's what they don't. After the Snow White meltdown, most of the cast went quiet, but none more noticeable than Gal Gadot, Rachel's co-star. While Rachel was busy doing damage control in interviews, Gal was nowhere to be seen. No defense, no support, not even a vague repost. And now, reports are starting to surface that Gal hasn't just been silent, she's been frustrated. Industry insiders claim she's been venting privately about the atmosphere on set, describing it as unprofessional and tense. She hasn't named names, but let's be real. Who else would she be talking about? This isn't just speculation. Gal's entire career has been built on poise and professionalism. She's worked with massive directors, global franchises, and rarely finds herself caught in drama. So when she backs off, it says a lot. It's not hard to connect the dots. Imagine being Gal Gadot, walking into a beloved Disney remake expecting magic, only to watch your co-star mock the very story you're both paid to honor. That energy doesn't just vanish. It lingers. It sours everything. And now, the fallout is showing up on stage. Rachel's name isn't just triggering backlash from fans. It's triggering distance from peers. And Hollywood is noticing. Studios are slowly shifting their tone, not through public announcements, but through silence. Fewer casting updates, fewer press tours, no big new projects headlined by Rachel. This isn't a scandal. It's something worse, a slow fade. The industry equivalent of ghosting. You don't get canceled. You just stop getting calls. Even the executives who once championed her, people like Spielberg, who reportedly recommended her for Snow White, have gone quiet. No public endorsements. No follow-ups. It's like they're waiting for the storm to pass, hoping her name fades before anyone connects the failures back to them. Gal Gadot didn't say a word. She didn't have to. Her silence echoed louder than any tweet. And in Hollywood, silence like that is rarely accidental. It's calculated. It's protective. And it tells the audience everything they need to. No, something behind the scenes wasn't right. And Rachel Zegler may be the reason why. Here's the hard truth Hollywood doesn't want to face. Rachel Zegler might be talented. She might have the voice, the look, the presence, but talent alone doesn't guarantee a career. Not anymore. Not when the audience feels like they're being talked down to. Not when connection is missing. What made this fall so dramatic wasn't just the backlash, it was the speed. 1 minute, Rachel was hailed as the future of Hollywood. The next, she's on a West End stage performing to half-empty seats. That kind of drop doesn't happen without reason. Audiences don't reject actors because of one bad movie. They reject them when it feels like the actor has rejected them first. And in Rachel's case, every smug interview, every dismissive comment, every moment that seemed too proud or too political, it added up. People don't just want performances. They want respect. They want to believe the person on screen still cares about the stories that shaped them. Rachel's talent was never the problem. But in today's world, the spotlight isn't earned by ability alone. It's earned by humility, relatability, and gratitude. Without those things, even the most gifted performers fade fast. And that's exactly what's happening here.